Round 14 gave us some important results for a lot of teams. We're going to delve into all of the fallout from round 14, all 7 games. Going to be reviewed here. We'll have a look at how our tips went and a little update on the Brownlow and MVP. As we do every single week, this is the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome on into the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast, everybody. This is episode number 40 of season 2025. Round 14 is complete, and we're going to be going through all 7 games that happened across the weekend. We're looking at the best players, the best teams, the best everything, and the worst of everything as well, I guess, in a way. So we're going to be going through all the matches, and then we'll finish off with our tips from the weekend, how they went, and have a look at the Brownlow and MVP leaderboards as they stand right now. So all of that to come. Sit back, enjoy. If you enjoy it, don't forget to like the video, give the podcast a rating, or subscribe. Do all of them things. Leave a comment down below. Who was the best team this weekend? Appreciate you for being here. Let's jump into the football, because that's what we're all here for. And it started on Thursday night, as every weekend does. But this one was St Kilda and the Bulldogs. It was at Marvel Stadium, and it was a flogging. Second time these two teams have met this year. Both of them were at Marvel, and both finished in very similar spots. Bulldogs absolutely thrashing St Kilda. Pretty much sums up the story of this game, I guess, was just the fact that the Bulldogs were classes above. The Bulldogs were classes above St Kilda. I don't know what I was saying before, if I got it the right way around or not. Domination, plus 27 inside 50s for the doggies here. It just pretty much was all the way through the game. 16-point win for the first quarter for the doggies, and then it got even bigger for the second quarter and just kept extending all the way out to the final margin. Saints just weren't in it. They just weren't in it. Pretty simple. Sam Darcy made his return. That was huge performance from him. Didn't miss a beat. Just coming straight back into the team and picked up where he left off before his knee injury. Fantastic effort from him. Fantastic effort from the doggies. Pretty much sums this game up. We'll have a look at some of the stats from this one. As we always do, just have a look at the important stuff from this game. It was just a flat-out domination. Plus 70 disposals for the doggies, so they just had the ball the whole way. Disposal efficiency was massively different between the two teams. 78.4% for the doggies, just 71 for St Kilda. Metres gained, 6,500 for the Dogs, just 5,300 for St Kilda. They could not move the ball all day long. It was just one end of the ground stuff. 68 inside 50s to 41, massive discrepancy. Clearances were pretty level. Interceptions were pretty level. That might make you wonder how this game blew out like this. Who knows? But 34 to 19 shots for the match. Obviously, expected score winner is by far the Bulldogs. They absolutely dominated this game. They chained the ball really well, moved the ball really well throughout the whole game. Their ability to move the ball was just leaps and bounds above St Kilda, no doubt about it. Scoring-wise, from stoppage, Bulldogs did really well, 52 to 21. From turnover, they also did really well, 73 to 37. They moved it from the back half, 50 to 30, and the forward half was the domination. When they got the ball forward, St Kilda could do nothing. When they turned it over in the Bulldogs forward line. It was 75 to 17, 11 goals, 9. That is ridiculous, and let me give you the hot tip right now. You're not going to win games of football if you're conceding 75 points from the forward half. That's ridiculous. Yeah, that's the key stats. Everything Bulldogs way, like really. If we have a look at some of the ratings and stuff, if you're not watching this, if you're just listening, I'll read out some of the stats on the screen. But team rating, St Kilda a 40.43. That is an a really low score. Probably AFL average at the moment is about 45-ish. So they're well below the AFL average in this game. Whereas the Bulldogs set one of their best scores of the year, 53.56. Really good performance from the Doggies. Best players, multiple goal scorers for the Doggies. Norton and Darcy both kicked 3. Both good games from the two talls. It was a weekend for tall forwards, no doubt about it. We'll get through a lot more good tall forwards, tall forward performances as we go through this episode. But those two both played well. Riley Sanders had 21 touches, 2 goals. Baku Kamas kicked 2 goals. And Matthew Kennedy continued his fine first year as a Bulldog, 29 touches, 2 goals. Plenty of other big ball winners. Bailey Dale, he's in some fine form. 36 touches in this one. Libra had 29. Treloar had 28 and a goal. Bailey Williams, 27. Ed Richards, 25 and a goal. For St Kilda, Nashaya Wanganeen-Malira, he continued his good season. He had 31 and a goal in this. Played a bit more forward than sometimes he does, but he played really well. Jack Sinclair, 30 touches, but it was just one-way traffic basically the whole night in this one. Brownlow votes I win. Adam Treloar, 3. Ed Richards, 2. Sam Darcy, 1. It could go any way of 8 players for the Bulldogs getting votes in this game, in all honesty. Bailey Dale, Libba, Kennedy, Treloar, Bailey Williams could get some. Ed Richards, Riley Sanders could sneak a vote. Sam Darcy definitely can get votes. So there's a lot of Bulldogs in this game that can get votes. I don't think the umpires will give Nashaya Wanganeen-Malira any, just because St Kilda was so far off the ball. He also turned it over a couple times early. MVP votes for this one. Winning team gets 10, 8, 6, 4 and 2 for the top 5 players. Losing team gets 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1 for the top 5 players. Bailey Dale, 10. He was outstanding. Ed Richards, 8. Bailey Williams, 6. Sam Darcy, unlucky to only get 4. He was really good. Adam Treloar, 2. And over the other side of the fence on St Kilda's land, 5 for Nashaya Wanganeen-Malira, 4 for Jack Sinclair, 3 for Jack Steele, 2 for Jack McRae, so a lot of Jacks, only one of their Jacks not getting votes, and that's Jack Higgins, of course, and 1 vote for Bradley Hill. I don't know if there's too much else to talk about in this game. It was just a flat-out domination from start to finish. No other way to put it. Looking forward for both of these teams. St Kilda play Collingwood next Saturday night at Marvel Stadium. That's a very important game for St Kilda. It's a little danger game for Collingwood, in my opinion. Coming out of the bye, they haven't been historically too great coming out of the bye. They lost their first 4 games out of the mid-season bye last year. So maybe, just maybe, there's a slight chance for St Kilda. I don't have high hopes, but you just never know. Meanwhile, the Doggies, they have a Sunday night fixture at Marvel Stadium as well, but against Richmond. So they have a really good chance to try and break into the 8. They're just sitting on the outside of it at the moment. Can they get in? They're 1 game behind Fremantle, obviously. They have a really good percentage, though, so they can get that. GWS, of course, also only the 1 game ahead of them, as is Gold Coast, but Gold Coast has played 1 less. GWS has played the extra game. So at the moment, it really feels like there's 9 teams in the genuine hunt, but Carlton potentially are sneaking up on that. And Port Adelaide aren't too far behind, but their percentage is going to be a concern. So there's every chance that maybe it will be a 10 or 11 team race. So you need to bank all the wins you can, because every win at this stage of the season is very important. Moving on to game number 2 of the weekend. This one was down in Launceston. I was at this game. It was Hawthorn Adelaide. It was cold. It wasn't that cold, to be honest. I thought it was going to be colder than it was. Maybe it was just a couple beverages that was keeping me warm. But Hawthorn won it. 3-point winners. It wasn't the most outstanding game of football you ever see. There was a lot of shots on goal that missed. 6 goals, 11 for Hawthorn. 5 goals, 14 for Adelaide. Both teams missed a lot of opportunities. In the end, Hawthorn sneak over the line in a close one. Adelaide led most of the way. I think they got out by 20, 21 points early in the second. Hawthorn slowly pegged their way back early in the third, hit the front a couple times. Jai Newcombe kicked a goal with about 5 or 6 minutes to go, which ended up being the winning goal. Both teams probably feel like they could have won this one in the end. It goes the way of the Hawks, the home team. They have a really good record down in Tassie, so we're not that surprised that they won it. Adelaide put up a good fight. They just, in the end, fell a little bit short. Disposal efficiency numbers way down. Both teams, 62 v 61, basically. So really low in that terms. Inside 50s, +7 for Adelaide. So that just shows you that they had plenty of opportunities in this. They had more contested football, high amount of turnovers/interceptions in this game, way above average for both teams. Adelaide had an extra 7 shots, 27 shots the Crows had in this game to just 20 for Hawthorn. That tells you all you need to know. I think Adelaide probably should have won this game based on those numbers. Poor kicking loses games. I know Hawthorn also didn't kick very accurately, just getting 6 goals from 20 shots, but poor kicking leads to losses. It happens time and time again. They're not the only team this weekend that kicked poorly and lost the game, so it kind of, it's ruining a lot of games for teams this season. Scoring wise, I mean, there's not that much scoring, so it's no massive numbers in the score sources or score origin. Interestingly, turnovers, as we said, was hugely high. Adelaide 3-9 to Hawthorn 4-9 from turnovers, and they had over 80 intercepts each. So not much scoring from the turnover game. It was just a messy game. It wasn't the most skillful game you'll ever see of football. Moving on to the best players and anything else we need to talk about from this game. As you expect, it was a low-scoring game, only 11 goals for the match, but there were 3 multiple goal kickers. Connor McDonald and Jack Gunston for Hawthorn kicked 2 each. Ben Keys for the Crows kicked 2. If you're looking at best players in this one, Dylan Moore, I've given him the 3 Brownlow votes. I thought he was really good in this game. 23 touches, 13 tackles. Was really good. Jarman Impey has probably played his best 2 games of this season the last 2 weeks. Last week was his best, and then this one was even better than that. 28 touches, 10 marks. 756 metres gained in a game that it wasn't that easy to move the ball efficiently. Jordan Dawson, 24 touches. I've given the 1 vote to. Probably Adelaide's best. Up there with Ben Keys and a couple others. Riley O'Brien probably played one of his better games of the year as well. Team ratings, pretty much dead level. 41.02, which is low for Hawthorn, and 41.00 for Adelaide, which is also, once again, very low for them. Neither teams at their best in the end. Hawthorn get the points, though. MVP votes, we've got Dylan Moore, 10. Jarman Impey, 8. Connor McDonald, 6. 4 for Josh Weddle, 2 for Blake Hardwick. And over in the Crow land, it was 5 for Ben Keys, 4 for Riley O'Brien, 3 for Rory Laird, 2 for Jordan Dawson, and 1 for Isaac Cumming. That is a wrap on that game. It wasn't the best game of football you'll ever see. But, I mean, both of these teams are going to, in all likelihood, feature come September. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Both teams go to the bye now, which probably is a good thing for both teams, in all honesty. At the moment, as it sits, Adelaide 4th on the ladder. Hawthorn 5th, right behind them, just on percentage. Quite a bit of percentage between the two teams, but 4th, 5th on the ladder, they'll be pretty happy with where they're at. Obviously, they have the bye this week. Some teams potentially could catch up to them over this bye period, I guess. Fremantle win next week, they'll be on the same score as them. Gold Coast are obviously 2 games behind Adelaide and Hawthorn, so they're well and truly in the hunt for the top 4 as well. But both of these teams will be expecting to be in that contention for top 4. Based on what we've seen so far this year, coming out of the bye, the Crows will have Richmond and Hawthorn will have North Melbourne. So you would imagine not the toughest games coming out of the bye for both of those teams. So a really good opportunity to get their 10th win of the season in that first game back from the bye, which is round 16. Jump into game number 3. It was Saturday afternoon, the first game of Saturday. This was a funny old game, this one too. Brisbane GWS at the Gabba, and the Giants get the job done. They've had a funny old little run of 5 or 6 weeks, as we were talking about in the podcast in our preview episode. It's just continued to be even stranger, I guess. They end up winning it by 11 points. Poor kicking from Brisbane in front of goal certainly hurt Brisbane's chances. They felt like for a long chunk of this game they were kind of in control. Once again, just like Adelaide, they got about 20 points up in that second quarter. But GWS just kept fighting. Jesse Hogan was outstanding. Cadman was outstanding. 2 key forwards dominating a game. On the other end, Logan Morris also did really well for Brisbane. But, it was just a weird old sort of game, and one that GWS really, that win is huge for the context of their season, I think. You look at the shots, Brisbane had an extra 7 shots in this game, 32-25, and they lost it by 11 points. Shows you how bad they were in front of goal. And vice versa, GWS, their efficiency was really good. They kicked 17 goals from 25 shots in this match. That's a really good accuracy. And you will win games if you kick that straight. There's no doubt about it. You just set yourself up for success kicking like that in front of goal. It helps having Jesse Hogan, who's one of the best kicks for goal in the competition. So that certainly helps. Disposal-wise, GWS had more of the ball, moved the ball slightly better, but Brisbane did have 2 extra inside 50s. Not a huge amount of difference there, but the ball was in Brisbane's forward half 52.6% of the time, so a decent amount there. Controlled the intercept game, did Brisbane. +6 in that regard. They also won the clearance game +6. So the main difference here is that efficiency at goal. They managed to create 7 extra shots and didn't convert them, and that's 100% the difference here. It's probably the best Brisbane's almost moved the ball this year in a lot of ways. Their change of score percentage was really high. Their defensive 50 to forward 50 was pretty solid. Defensive half to forward 50 was really good. But the Orange Tsunami, when it gets going, is hard to stop, and this was one of those times. Scoring from stoppage, 6-3 for GWS to 4 goals 11 for Brisbane. There's a bad one. That's a bad number. GWS did all their scoring from the back half. Brisbane did all theirs from the forward half. Basically sums it up. GWS did kick 3 goals from the centre bounce as well, which certainly helped their scoring from stoppages in this game. Look at some of the key players. As we said, this was a key forwards week, and this was a key forwards game. Jesse Hogan 6-1, Aaron Cadman 5-1, so those two combined for 11 goals too. Logan Morris kicked 5-1 for Brisbane, and then Callum Brown also was the only other multiple goal scorer. He kicked 3 for GWS. So those players did really well, no doubt about it. The Talls did really well in this game. The tall forwards, that is. Other key players in this game, Lachie Whitfield had plenty of it from the back line, 33 touches, 32 for Finn Callaghan. He had plenty of it. Lachie Ash as well. He's continued his fine season, 31 touches. Big clearance numbers to Tom Green and Lachie Neale, 11 for Tom, 10 for Lachie Neale. So they had plenty of the football. Brisbane will be kicking themselves, I think, is the long and the short of this game. Brownlow votes, I think you just got to go to the goal kickers. Jesse Hogan 3, he kicked 6 goals. Aaron Cadman 2, he kicked 5 goals. Logan Morris could get votes as well in a lot of ways. I think Dane Zorko was probably Brisbane's best. But Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he gets a vote or Logan Morris does or anyone else. But I think tall forwards deserve votes in this game because they were, especially for GWS, the difference. Their ability to convert their opportunities and keep GWS, who didn't always look like they were in control of the game, in the match, was a really good performance from them. This obviously was a replay of the semi-final from last year, obviously, not at the same ground. But funnily enough, it was kind of the reverse. Last year it was GWS who were out in front and Brisbane came back, whereas this time it was the reverse. MVP votes for the losing team Brisbane: Dane Zorko 5, Lockie Neal 4, Cam Rayner 3, Logan Morris 2, and Darcy Fort in probably his best performance of the year so far with 1. GWS, Aaron Cadman 10, he was outstanding. Jesse Hogan also outstanding 8, Lockie Whitfield 6, Finn Callahan 4, and Tom Green with 2. A look towards where they're both at now and what they have coming up. Brisbane, they have Geelong next up. They're sitting third on the ladder. They've got Geelong, so they get a chance against another quality opposition to right their wrongs, I guess. Friday night footy that will be down at the Cattery. It's going to be a tough one for them. They're certainly going to have to bring their best footy, and if they're as poor at converting as they were this week, and they have been for a lot of this season, I can't see a way that they get past the Cats. GWS, they play Sunday football against Gold Coast coming out of the bye. NG Stadium, Sunday, big important game for both teams. Gold Coast have lost their last 2. GWS, a little bit hit and miss at the moment, but that will be a massive game on Sunday afternoon, and probably, without going too deeply into it, could be game of the round on paper. So that's a big one. That's sitting 7th on the ladder. Big game against Gold Coast coming up, so we'll see how that goes for them. Moving into the next game, straight after that one, it was probably the least exciting game of football this weekend. It was Essendon Geelong. It was at the MCG, and this was an absolute drubbing. 95-point win to the Cats, 23-13 to 8-8. First quarter started pretty well for Geelong. By halftime, it was looking pretty good. By three-quarter time, it was pretty much over. And then the final quarter was just an absolute one-way traffic. It was Geelong 7-5 in the last quarter to 0-1 for the Bombers. They just put them to the sword in the end. Team ratings, Essendon 40.27, Geelong 53.1. So a really good rating for Geelong. Not too far off their average, the Bombers, but still a little bit below their best. Well, certainly below their best, but even slightly below their average. I look at some of the key stats in this one, and I mean, it's not going to surprise you at all. It's all one-way traffic. Everything's just going to read really well for Geelong and really quite poorly for the Bombers. Interestingly, from this game, the Bombers actually had more disposals in this match, an extra 12. But they had more handballs than kicks for the match. That's crazy. You don't see that too often, and just shows, I guess, their inability to move the ball forward in a lot of this game. Because you look at the metres gained, it was 6,300 metres to 49. So that's 1,400 metre difference between the two teams. 25 difference in inside 50s, 63 to 38. And forward half time was 60.7% in the forward half of Geelong. The ball just stayed down there, and Essendon had no way of getting it out. They tried to handball their way out and just got themselves into more and more pressure, more and more trouble for themselves. The intercept game was massively Geelong. They were plus 14 intercepts. Clearances were actually pretty good for the Bombers. They did win that area in terms of just the numbers. We'll get to the scoring from clearances, but they were plus 2 on clearances. It was just a game that Geelong just controlled it in every possible way. 37 shots to 19. That's basically double the shots for the match. So no surprise that they absolutely demolished them, I guess. As I said, Essendon did win the stoppage count just by 2. And they both had 9 scores from stoppages. Unfortunately for the Bombers, it was 5-4 for them, and Geelong was 7-2. But it was the turnover game. When Geelong are on, when they're playing their best, you look back to last year, their best matches, they were scoring massively from turnover, and that's exactly what they did here. They almost outscored the Bombers by 100 points on turnover. 16-11, 107. I mean, it's only, I don't know off the top of my head, but there's probably only maybe up to 10 teams, if that have scored 100 points from turnover this year. Might only be like 4 times it's happened. So it doesn't happen that often, but that's a massive score. Bombers managed just 3-4-22. Forward half. I mean, we know that the ball spent pretty much the whole day in the Geelong forward half, and they got 13 goals, 7 from that score origin. 4-0 from the centre bounce. It was just the complete performance, in all honesty, from Geelong here. They were absolutely outstanding from start to finish. We'll look at some of the key players' stats, I guess, as we do. Jeremy Cameron continued that tall forward day. He kicked 6-1. Shannon Neal, he kicked 4-1. Sean Manor got 3 goals, and then there was 2 goals to Ollie Dempsey and Paddy Dangerfield. And then for the Bombers, they had 2 multiple goal scorers, Peter Wright and Matt Guelphy. It was just one-way traffic, though, let's be honest. Bailey Smith, 41 touches. What a season he is having at Geelong. Max Holmes, 36 and a goal. Interestingly to note, Max Holmes actually, with this performance, was the single best game, according to the All Aussie Rules rating system, by any player this season. So he had an absolute outstanding game. He was so good with it. 871 metres gained, a goal assist, 8 clearances, 36 disposals, a goal. He was fantastic. Plenty of Bombers had plenty of the ball, as we said. They actually had more disposals than Geelong in this game, but it's hard to pinpoint too many that were too effective, were effective in this game. So Brownlow votes, Max Holmes I think deserves the 3. I know Bailey Smith had 41 touches, but Max Holmes was insanely good. So I've given him 3 votes. Bailey Smith 2, 41 touches. You're going to get votes surely, and 1 vote to Jeremy Cameron for his 6 goals. Excuse me. MVP votes for this one, I've gone 5 for Jai Caldwell, 4 for Will Setterfield, 3 for Todd Goldstein, 2 for Zach Merritt, and 1 for Jackson Pryor. And for the Cats, as I said, Max Holmes played the best game of any player this season according to the numbers. He gets a 10. Bailey Smith gets an 8. Brian Myers gets 6. Jeremy Cameron 4. And Zach Guthrie gets 2. A look ahead for both of these teams. So Geelong, they move up to second on the ladder. 10 wins, 4 losses. As we mentioned before, they have Brisbane this week at the Cattery. A really good chance for them to set themselves into the bye really well, because I think their bye must be the week after. So if they can get a win against the Lions next weekend, head into the bye at 11-4, they will be absolutely wrapped with that. Their percentage is increasing each week. They're really setting themselves up towards the back end of this season to have a really good crack at that top 4. At the moment, they're looking at certainly a top 2 position for them based on what we've seen so far this year. So they're going really well. Meanwhile, the Bombers, we can't expect too much from them. They're playing a lot of young players. They're not going to be great at times, but I think they've done pretty well this year to be sitting 6 and 7. They're 12th on the ladder. They have Fremantle next, which will be an interesting one for them, I guess, in a lot of ways. Their bye also is round 16, so Fremantle at Optus Stadium on Thursday night. 5-day break. I know both teams are going off a 5-day break, but Fremantle playing both of those at Optus Stadium, whereas the Bombers having to travel from Melbourne to Perth. It's going to be a tough one for them. They get the bye after this. They certainly look like they're going to be limping into that bye. Fremantle not playing the best football at the moment, but it's certainly one that you wouldn't expect the Bombers to be winning come this weekend. Into the Saturday night game, and this might have been the worst game on paper, but it lived up to a little bit of excitement. It was close. Kangaroos end up nearly stealing it. 10-7-67, losing to the Dockers. 10-13-73. Home game for North Melbourne, but it was over at Optus Stadium in Perth. You look at the team ratings, both teams pretty much rated exactly the same. 45-3-2 for North Melbourne, 45-2-5 for the Dockers. So Kangaroos performing above what they normally do, whereas Fremantle were slightly below their sort of normal range. So make of that what you will. But the Kangaroos definitely played a really good game of football. I think it was coming out of their bye, wasn't it? Yeah, look at the stats here. What do we make of them? What do we make of this game? What happened? In all honesty, I don't know what happened. Fremantle did not play terribly great, but I think we've got to give North Melbourne credit here. They played a good game of football. They brought it right up to Fremantle. They had an extra 12 inside 50s in this match. The ball was in the North Melbourne forward half for 55% of this game. They certainly created their opportunities. They played some really good football. Turnovers for both teams were pretty high. Contested football was pretty level across the board. Fremantle did manage to create 4 extra shots, even though they had the ball in their forward 50 12 less times. So it just shows that efficiency that Fremantle had in this game, and I guess in a way, the way that maybe this North Melbourne defence just really struggles at times to stop oppositions from having high efficiency going forward. It has been a plague on them for the last couple years, and this is just another example of that. They did play well. They tried their absolute heart out, so you've got to give them that, I think. Other key things from this game, where was it won or lost? I think it just comes down to that efficiency in the end. Was Fremantle forwards taking their opportunities. Both teams had some really good players in this game, but yeah, it was just in the end that forward efficiency that changed it. Goal kickers. The multiple goal kickers for Fremantle were Paddy Voss, 3 goals, and Luke Jackson with 2. And for the Bombers, it was Nick Larkey kicking 3 and Luke Parker kicking 2. There was some big ball winners on the ground. Sarong 36, Brayshaw 31, Sheasel 32. Clearance numbers, Sarong, Brayshaw both dominated the clearances for Fremantle. 8 for Sarong, 9 for Brayshaw. Make of it what you will. I think those 3 big ball winners probably get the Brownlow votes. I've gone Sarong 3. I think he was best on ground. He had 36 touches and a goal with 10 tackles, 8 clearances. You're going to be hard-pressed to not get 3 votes with a game like that, I would think. Harry Sheasel, I think, gets the 2 because he did have plenty of the football. He was overall reasonably effective with it. Didn't gain much meterage, but he was pretty solid. I think the umpires will notice that. I don't have him rated as North Melbourne's best player in the game. We'll get to that in a second. Andrew Brayshaw, I think, gets the 1 vote. MVP votes for North Melbourne. Tristan Cherry was their highest rated player. He had a really good game. Obviously, facing the tag team of the dual ruckman for Fremantle is never going to be an easy task. But if anybody could handle it, it would be Tristan Cherry. Luke Davies-Yanaki played a really good game. I think he was probably close to his best game of the season. 27 touches, 6 clearances and a goal. Harry Sheasel, 3. Luke Parker kicked a couple goals, was good. And Luke McDonald also was good. Funnily enough, 3 Lukes all polling votes, which is funny after the 3 St Kilda players, 3 Jacks from St Kilda polled votes as well. Fremantle, 10 for Sarong, 8 for Andrew Brayshaw. Luke Jackson is really rising up the ranking system of ruckman at the moment. I think he's currently the third highest rated ruckman in the competition, behind Cherry and Max Gawn. I haven't finished final numbers from this weekend yet, but I would imagine he will be third. Josh Tracy gets the 4, and Jordan Clark gets the 2. Where does that sit us? It sits Fremantle just inside the 8. If they had gone down there, they would have dropped down to 9th, but they get the win. That's 4 in a row for them. Huge 4 wins in a row for them. They really needed it. They're 8-5 for the season, so they're still setting themselves into a really good position for this back half of the year. It certainly doesn't get easy for them at any point, I don't think. Well, nothing too easy, but they get a really good opportunity next week against the Bombers to win 5 in a row. They then have St Kilda at Optus Stadium as well, so they win that one on a Sunday afternoon. That's like a 11-day break, basically. So they've got a 5-day break into an 11-day break against St Kilda, though, at Optus Stadium. St Kilda have already lost at Optus Stadium this year, so I think that's a really great opportunity at the moment for Fremantle to win at least their next couple games and really set themselves up for this back half of the year. Because if they can get those 2 wins, they're sitting at 10-5 with 8 games to go. Top 4 is still a possibility. Who knows what the sky's the limit for them. They were in a similar spot last year, though, and lost their last 4 games and missed finals. So that's probably number 1 priority, is not getting ahead of themselves. Meanwhile, North Melbourne, they're 16th on the ladder. Their form is certainly better right now than it has been at any other point of this year. Their last 5 weeks has been their best 5-week block by far. 2 losses in there, but both of those losses pretty good performances. This one and the one against Collingwood, they ended up losing by 45, but for 3 quarters they were well and truly in that game. They've won 2 games, obviously against West Coast and Richmond, and they drew with Brisbane. So they've had a good 5-week block. They've got Carlton next, which is at the MCG on a Saturday. MCG makes it tough for them, I reckon. Carlton will certainly start favourites, and rightly so. It won't be an easy one for them, but they're 16th on the ladder now. I can't see Richmond getting above them by the end of the year, so I think that's probably about where they'll finish 16th. It's just a matter of, can they get to that 7 or so wins that we set them as their goal for the year. Who knows? But they're on 3.5, so maybe. Next up, we move to Sunday football, and it's Port Adelaide Melbourne was the first game on Sunday. It was another interesting game. I don't know fully what to make of this one. First quarter was tight. Second quarter, Port Adelaide kicked away a little bit. They got out by over 20. Melbourne brought it back in the third quarter to under about a kick, roughly, late in the third. But Port Adelaide just managed to kick away again. You look at the scoreboard and you say, oh, Melbourne's inaccuracy cost them a chance at this game. Maybe not. We'll have a look more deeper into it. But 14-9 to 9-14, exact opposite scorelines. Tells you all you kind of need to know about this. But we had another key forward dominate a game. Mitch Georgiadis this time did really well. He kicked 7 goals for. At one stage he had 4 for. So he certainly had opportunities at goals. He did kick 7. Could have possibly had more. Darcy Byrne-Jones kicked 2, was their only other multiple goal scorer, meanwhile, for Melbourne. Cosy Pickett kicked 3. I think they were all in the first half from memory. And Jacob Van Rooyen and Bailey Fritsch both kicked 2 each. I look at some of the stats for this one. If we go across, overall ball was in Melbourne's half a lot of this game. They had 6 extra inside 50s, but 2 less shots. So Port Adelaide did have slightly more shots at goal. they had more of the uncontested side of the game in their favour, Port Adelaide, whereas Melbourne were really good in the contest. Clearance-wise, +5 for Melbourne. Contested football, +27 for Melbourne. So they really came to battle in this game, which is probably one of their best areas of their game, is their contested style of football. But unfortunately for them, Port Adelaide's polish, I guess it was in a way that kind of got them over the line here. You look at the team ratings, and you'd suggest Port Adelaide quite comfortably won this, which just shows how well Melbourne did to stay in this and to fight it out. 48-3-2 for Port Adelaide's a pretty good score, certainly for them this year. They haven't had too many games above that. And Melbourne 42.85 is around slightly below their average over the last 6 or 7 weeks. Only other thing to look at in this is like score sources. It was all from turnover for Port Adelaide. They scored 9,660 from turnovers, whereas Melbourne were 4,731. They did really well from the back half, Port Adelaide. Probably one of their better ball movement games, and getting it to scores that they've had this year. They kicked 6,642. So that was really good performance from them in regards to that. Sorry, I've apparently changed the graphic without realising. So yeah, that sums up everything there. We'll have a look at some of the player stats now. As we said, Georgiades kicked 7 goals. He had 18 touches. He was really good. Big ball winners, Rose 32. Jason Horne-Francis spent some time off the game, off the ground with some injury concerns, but he still had 29 touches, 1 goal, 3, and 7 clearances. Really good performance from him. Zach Butters, 27. Clary had 26. Max Gawn was good. He had 23. I think Brownlow votes probably go to Mitch Georgiades. He kicked 7 goals. I'm pretty confident the umpires would see that and be like, yeah, we have to give that guy 3 votes. Jason Horne-Francis, as I said, he did spend some time off the ground, but when he was on the ground, he was Port Adelaide's most damaging midfielder and like high half forward player that in the game. He had, as I said, 29 and a goal. He was really good. Connor Rose had 32 touches. I think he might scrape in for 1 vote. For Melbourne, Pickett, maybe. He had 16 touches, 3 goals. Max Gawn, I think, was really good, but I think it just goes to the side of Port Adelaide. Those 3 were huge in the outcome of this game. MVP votes for Port Adelaide, 10 for Jason Horne-Francis, 8 for Miles Bergman, 6 for Asava Radagalia, 4 for Connor Rose, and 2 for Mitch Georgiades. On the other side of the fence, it was Melbourne. They had 5 for Koshea Pickett, 4 for Maxi Gawn, 3 for Daniel Turner, 2 for Jacob Bowie, and 1 for Bailey Fritsch. Where's that sit? Both of these teams, Melbourne go into the bye next week, so they get a regroup a little bit. I think their season's pretty much done, wrapped up now. They're 5-9. They've lost their last 3. If they had have won a couple of those, their season would certainly still be on. But at 5-9 with 9 games to go, they'd pretty much have to win all but 1 game going forward. They come out of the bye with a game against Gold Coast, so that's certainly not going to be an easy game either. Round 16 up on the Gold Coast Saturday afternoon. That will be a tough one. I think they did beat Gold Coast up there last year. They were the only team that did it. But yeah, it'll be a really tough one. Actually, I think Brisbane beat them there as well, but that's beside the point. So yeah, that's where they're at. Port Adelaide, all of a sudden, their season's just got a whisper of a chance. Them and Carlton are both fighting their way back into this. They're 11th on the ladder, 6-7. They're 2 games out of the 8 at the moment as it stands, but they've won 2 in a row. They have Sydney up next. Saturday night, Adelaide Oval, Sydney Swans. If anybody has any sort of a memory, they'll probably remember what happened last time these 2 teams met at the Adelaide Oval. It ended up being Port Adelaide by like 100 and something points, and Sydney were the best team on the home and away season last year, so Sydney certainly aren't going as well as they were last year, but I mean Port Adelaide aren't either. But a really, really good opportunity to get themselves back to 7-7 with 9 games to go. The finals are certainly still within their grasp. If they can put together some good football, find some form, you certainly can't write them off. Because then they've got the next week, they will have Carlton at the Adelaide Oval. Both teams will be in a similar spot going into that one. So that will be a hugely important game for both of those teams right there. So yeah, that's the next 2 weeks for both of these teams. And this is our final round of the game. It was West Coast Carlton Sunday evening game at Optus Stadium. Second game at Optus Stadium for the round. And the Blues won it in the end reasonably comfortably, 12-14, 86 to 7-10, 52. It was by no means the complete performance by Carlton, but they got the job done. They get the 4 points, and that's probably all that matters in the end. Yeah, they did it in the first quarter. It was 7-4 to 1-1 at quarter time. From that point on, the Blues only managed 5 goals 10, so some inaccuracy in the after quarter time, whereas West Coast managed 6 goals 9 after quarter time. So, yeah, a much better performance after quarter time for the Eagles, but the damage was done early on. I mean, you look at the stats, and Carlton were definitely the better team. You look at the team ratings there. Carlton 48.46, West Coast 37.62. Yeah, it was clearly the better team on the day was Carlton, but I mean, West Coast fought and did pretty well after quarter time. Overall disposals was plus 80 for Carlton, so pretty dominant there. Plus 15 inside 50s, definitely had the ball inside their 50 a lot more. I don't have a full range of all my stats yet because I'm recording this literally 20 minutes after the game finished. So most of those stats will come out over the next 5 or 6 hours. So we don't have them all here for this podcast because I do want to get this up for Monday morning. But yeah, uncontested footy was dominated by Carlton. Contested footy they did win slightly, but uncontested footy they absolutely dominated. Turnover game about where we expected it to be. West Coast slightly above their average. Marks, clearly Carlton's way. Uncontested game was theirs and Marks was theirs. Not a high tackle count for either team. Multiple goal kickers for Carlton. Mitch McGovern 3, Lockie Fogarty 3, Zach Williams 2. And for the Eagles it was Bailey Williams with 3. Brownlow votes could go to a whole range of players in this one. I've gone 3 for George Hewitt. I think he was outstanding. He had 35 touches. Granted, 27 of those were handballs. I just think that's going to be right in front of the umpire's eyes, though, so quite a good chance he'll get some votes. Adam Chera, 30 touches was really good. Given Tom De Koning the 1, he had 21 touches and a goal. There's a whole host of other players that could get votes as well. Pretty much everyone from Carlton in the end could get votes. Or the debutant, Tom McCarthy from West Coast, who wasn't even on an AFL list like 2 or 3 weeks ago, goes out and has 31 touches in what was one of the all-time debuts. Outstanding performance from him. It's just some random stats. I think the previous best West Coast amount of disposals on debut was like 24. So he's blown that out of the water. No other Eagle has had 30 touches in a game this season, and he comes out on debut and has 31. Incredible. Unfortunately, he's too old to win the Rising Star, but an outstanding performance from him nonetheless. 31 touches, 571 metres gained. A really good performance. He could get votes, Brownlow votes, on debut, which would be outstanding achievement from him. I haven't gone through all the numbers yet, but I think clearly the number one debutant debut game of this season, and it might even be way better than any debut from last season as well. Just a fantastic effort from Tom McCarthy. We'll jump into MVP votes for West Coast. 5 Tom McCarthy, there's no doubt about it. He was clearly their best player. 4 for Dewar, he was really good as well. He had 27 touches and 843 metres gained. Just running up that wing all day, even through the middle at times as well. Liam Baker was good, 3. Jack Graham, 2. Harley Reid maybe played his best game of the year. He had 28 touches. Missed an absolute sitter, but potentially coming into his own this season, finally, after a bit of a slow start. Carlton, 10 goes to Lockie Fogarty for his 3 goals and 17 touches. I think most of those goals were in the first quarter. They might have all been in the first quarter. Tom DeConing, he played really well. George Hewitt is having an outstanding season. I think he's been Carlton's best player this season so far. Mitch McGovern, 4, and Adam Sard has had a couple good games now in the last few weeks. He gets 2. So that's how the MVP votes go for this game. I don't think there's anything too exciting to talk about on this game, other than the fact that Tom McCarthy was outstanding on debut, but Carlton were just too good. Huge win for them. So we look at where that puts both these teams on the ladder. I haven't updated my ladder since the game finished. Puts Carlton into 10th spot. Basically 2 games out of the 8 at the moment. Exactly on the same percentage as Fremantle. They've played the same amount of games as the 2 teams above them. There's still a lot of work to do, but they get their chance. They've got North Melbourne this week. They have a genuine chance of getting their way back into the 8. This is 6 and 7. They win next week and they'll be 7 and 7 after 14 with 9 games to go. 13 wins may get you into finals. 13 wins would mean they would only need 6 out of their last 9. So it's certainly possible. There's still a bit of work for them to do, but it is certainly possible that they can play finals this year. West Coast, we know where they are. They're sitting bottom still. They're 1 win, 13 losses. They get the bye this week, which I'm sure they're pretty happy about. They've lost their last 4. They get the bye. Have the week off, regroup. Hopefully Tom McCarthy continues his fine form after the break. They have Collingwood next up, which will be at Marvel Stadium in 2 weeks' time, and that will certainly be a tough challenge for them. I think that might even be a Saturday night game, so not the perfect Saturday night viewing, but it is what it is. I think that's everything from that game. We'll jump in and have a look at how my tips went for the weekend. We got 6 out of 7. Bulldogs, we're pretty happy with that tip. To start the round, they beat St Kilda. We suggested 17 points. They won by a lot more than that, but that's okay. Next up was Hawthorn. We said 8 points. They won by 3 in a tight contest with the Crows, so we get that one. Brisbane was the one we got wrong. They lost by 11 points. We had them by 21. Just an inefficient Brisbane cost us on that one. I mean, yeah, that is how it is. Geelong smacked Essendon by a lot more than we suggested, but we got the tip right. Fremantle did not win by as much as that, but they won the game, so that's all that matters. Port Adelaide, they won against Melbourne by 25, so we're pretty close there. And Carlton, in the end, won by 34. We said 39, so we get that one right as well. Gives us 6 out of 7 for the week, 79 out of 120 on the season. Not the best tipping you ever see, but we're getting there. We're fighting. We're going to keep giving it our best. So that is all of the graphics I have for you. We will run through my Brownlow and MVP leaderboards. Usually I have graphics for these for the podcast, but as I said, the game literally just finished. I have done the votes, as you saw in the previous graphics, but I haven't put them into a graphic. I've got the leaderboard though, so we'll go through that. We'll start with the Brownlow and how I have that sitting at the moment. Still number 1 at the moment. Funnily enough, a lot of the top players did poll votes this week. Jordan Dawson, number 1, 19 votes. 1 vote behind him is Bailey Smith on 18. Right behind him is his teammate Max Holmes and Caleb Sarong on 17. So those 4, all within a couple votes. Brownlow well and truly on at the moment. Next up, 2 votes behind them on 15 is George Hewitt. and Andrew Brayshaw. So a couple Freo players and a couple Geelong players in the top 6. Then on 14 is Jai Newcomb, Max Gawn and Connor Rose. On 13 is a couple Brisbane players, Hugh McCluggage, Lachie Neale, as well as Nick Dacos and Ed Richards. Then on 12 we've got Isaac Rankin, Nick Martin, Zach Merritt, couple Bombers together, Noah Anderson as well on 12. On 11 we've got Toby Green, Zach Butters and Tom Liberatore. On 10 we've got Still Sidebottom and Matt Rao. And then it starts to bunch up with 9s, 8s, all the way down. Currently have it City at 147 different players have received a vote from me so far this year in the Brownlow count. If we have a look at the MVP standings after round 14, obviously there has been a different amount of games from different teams this season. That's how it is going to be all the way till the end because of Gold Coast and Essendon, but also there's still 8 teams that haven't had a bye, so that's playing an effect at the moment, but that is how it is. We can't control that. So leading the MVP leaderboard at the moment, it's Bailey Smith on 78. He's having an outstanding season. Tristan Cherry is second on 72.5, and then on 71 we've got Andrew Brayshaw, and Max Gawn. Then a little bit of a gap before Hugh McCluggage on 65.5. Caleb Sarong, Max Holmes and Noah Anderson all on 63. Connor Rose's on 62. Still Sidebottom and Matty Rao both on 60. Jordan Dawson's on 59. Jack Sinclair 58. George Hewitt 57. Lachie Neale and Tom Green on 56. Nick Dacos, Ed Richards both on 54. Zach Butters on 52. And then in 20th spot we got Luke Jackson and Tim Taranto on 48. Lloyd Meek 47, Zorko 46.5, Miller, Chad Warner, Liberatore all on 46, and then Will Ashcroft, Tom DeConing, Brodie Grundy on 45. Equal 30th spot is Nick Martin, Lockie Ash and Nashaya Wanganeen Malira all on 44 after 14 rounds. There's 5 players from every team get votes every single game, so there's quite a lot of people that have polled a vote. It's up to 349 players with approximately, I don't know how many that is, 18 on one vote. So yeah, that's pretty much everything we have for you in this episode. Don't forget to go over to the YouTube channel if you're not on the YouTube. If you are, make sure you hit the subscribe button. But go check out our other content we do. At the moment, we're doing mid-season reviews of every single team as they get to their bye. So there's 10 teams already up on the channel. There's going to be another 8 over the next 2 weeks. So go check them out. I think it's really good content. I think there's some very good, valuable information in there. So go check them out. Yeah, give the podcast a rating, like the video, make sure you hit the subscribe button. That's pretty much all I've got for you. Don't forget to check out my socials. Instagram, TikTok are the main 2 that I'm really putting a lot of content on, so go check them out. But also X, Blue Sky, all of the above. Thanks for tuning in. If this is your first time here, I hope you enjoyed. If you're returning, thanks for coming back. Hope you enjoyed. This has been another episode of All Aussie Rules. We'll be back for the next episode of the podcast on Thursday morning, which will be our round 15 preview. 7 games again next weekend. We'll be going through them all. Hopefully find you 7 winners next week. This is All Aussie Rules. Catch you then.